Have you ever imagined living in a world where iceboxes and fridges are nowhere to be found, yet the food stays fresh and safe to eat for months? Sounds impossible, right? From sun-drying to fermentation, here are the 10 fascinating ways African tribes preserve food without refrigeration. 1. Blood harvesting and sun-dried meat preservation. 1. The Maasai people of Kenya are known worldwide for their striking red robes, fearless spirit, and deep-rooted traditions. Unlike many other communities that rely on farming or hunting, their diet revolves almost entirely around their cattle. But here's the fascinating part: they rarely eat beef. Instead of slaughtering their cows for food, they have perfected the art of harvesting blood without harming the animal. Using a small arrow, they make a precise puncture in the cow's neck and collect the blood through a bamboo tube. Within days, the wound heals and the cow continues to thrive. Unbelievable, right? This method allows the Maasai to sustain themselves without depleting their herds. Blood is not a daily meal, but is consumed during special occasions like weddings and initiation ceremonies. It is also believed to have healing properties, used to restore strength after illness or even to sober up after drinking too much. Some mix it with milk for a more nourishing drink, while others cook it into meals. The taste? Thick, salty, slightly sweet, and even steaky, with a thin film forming on the surface as it cools. Meat, when eaten, is prepared in the simplest way possible, often roasted over an open flame without any seasoning. But since they don't have refrigerators, the Maasai have mastered the art of meat preservation. Instead of relying on modern storage methods, they cut the meat into long strips and dry it in the sun. This technique, known as ol motonyi, removes moisture, preventing spoilage and allowing the meat to last for months. The dried meat becomes tough and chewy, making it an ideal source of nourishment during long journeys or food shortages. Although cattle remain at the heart of their diet, the Maasai also consume wild tubers, honey, and even tree bark, which they believe has medicinal benefits. In more recent times, they have incorporated cornmeal and vegetables into their meals, but their traditional food practices remain largely unchanged. For them, cattle are more than just a source of food. They are a symbol of status, survival, and cultural identity. By choosing to preserve their traditions despite modern influences, the Maasai have demonstrated remarkable resilience. Their way of life is proof to the power of adaptation, proving that even without modern conveniences like refrigerators, food can be preserved and a community can thrive on the wisdom of its ancestors. 2. Honey storage and sun-dried meat. The Hadzabe of Tanzania are among the last true hunter-gatherers, living off the land as their ancestors have for thousands of years. With no farms, livestock, or modern conveniences, they rely on nature's resources and their deep knowledge of the environment to find, store, and preserve food. Their diet changes with the seasons, adapting to whatever is most abundant. Honey is one of their most treasured foods, and getting it is a remarkable example of human-animal teamwork. The Hadza have a unique relationship with a bird called the Greater Honey Guide, which leads them to beehives hidden high in trees. The bird chatters and flutters ahead, guiding the way, while the Hadza hunters follow, whistling to keep its attention. Once they find a hive, they use smoke to calm the bees before cracking it open. The golden honey is scooped out and enjoyed, while the bird gets its share by feasting on leftover beeswax. Some Hadza men even go as far as hiding the wax to keep the honey guide eager for the next hunt. This natural collaboration ensures a steady supply of honey, which can be stored for long periods without spoiling, making it a crucial energy source. Meat is another valued part of the Hadza diet, but hunting is no easy task. Armed with bows and arrows tipped with a deadly poison from the adenium shrub, Hadza hunters wait patiently near waterholes during the dry season, hoping to catch an animal off guard. Their targets range from antelope and warthogs to baboons and birds. Once an animal is killed, every part is used. The meat is cooked and eaten fresh, but if there are leftovers, it is dried in the sun to preserve it for later. This simple yet effective method keeps the meat edible without refrigeration, ensuring the whole camp can benefit from a successful hunt. While men focus on hunting and honey collection, women are the experts in foraging for plants. They gather tubers, berries and the highly nutritious fruit of the baobab tree. The baobab is a lifeline, offering fruit packed with vitamin C and fibre. Its seeds are ground into powder and mixed with water to create a nourishing drink. Unlike many fresh foods that spoil quickly, baobab fruit can be stored for months, making it a reliable food source. Tubers, which grow underground, are another staple. Some are cooked and eaten right away, while others are left buried and dug up later, using nature itself as a storage system. 3. Milk fermentation and meat drying. The Himba people of Namibia have long captivated travellers with their striking red-tinted skin and rich cultural traditions. Living much like their ancestors, they have resisted modern influences, choosing instead to uphold their semi-nomadic way of life. Their small villages, made of sapling frames covered in mud and dung, are centred around a kraal where cattle and goats are herded each night for safety. While their traditions are fascinating, one of the most intriguing aspects of their lifestyle is how they preserve food without refrigerators. With livestock at the heart of their diet, milk plays a crucial role in their daily meals. Fresh milk is consumed regularly, but to ensure it lasts longer, the Himba ferment it into a thick, soured milk drink that is enjoyed throughout the day. This natural fermentation process not only extends the milk's shelf life, but also enhances its nutritional value, making it a staple in their diet. Meat is another essential part of their food supply, though they do not eat it as frequently as one might expect. Since hunting is no longer as common due to conservation efforts, the Himba rely more on their livestock for meat. To preserve it without refrigeration, they dry it in the sun, cutting it into thin strips that harden over time. This dried meat can be stored for months and is often rehydrated and cooked when needed. This method ensures that even in times of scarcity, they have a reliable food source. Corn is another important component of their diet. Rather than grinding large amounts at once, they store it on the cob for longevity and only grind what is needed for a week's supply. This careful approach prevents waste and keeps their food fresh for longer periods. Foraging also plays a vital role in their sustenance. Himba women gather herbs, roots and wild plants that not only add flavour to their meals, but also provide essential nutrients. They are skilled in identifying which plants are safe to eat and which have medicinal benefits. This knowledge is passed down through generations, ensuring the community remains self-sufficient. Water scarcity is a challenge in their harsh environment, and this affects not only hygiene but also food preparation. Since water cannot be used freely for cleaning, wood ash is sometimes used to cleanse hair, and herbs are burned to create a fragrant smoke for hygiene purposes. This same resourcefulness extends to their cooking methods, where they make the most of what little they have, ensuring that nothing goes to waste. Every family member plays a role in food preparation, from gathering firewood to milking goats and grinding corn. The process is not just about survival, but also about community and tradition. In a world increasingly reliant on modern conveniences, the Himba continue to thrive by preserving food the way their ancestors did, through fermentation, drying, and careful storage. 4. Fermented dairy and grain storage. The Zulu people, often called the people of the heavens, are the largest ethnic group in South Africa, with millions living in KwaZulu-Natal. Their rich cultural heritage includes vibrant traditions, striking attire, and a deep connection to their history. But one of the most fascinating aspects of Zulu life is how they preserve their food without modern refrigeration. Milk plays a key role in the Zulu diet, but rather than drinking it fresh all the time, they turn it into amasi, a thick, fermented milk that is treasured in their culture. This creamy, yogurt-like delicacy is made by curdling milk in a gourd, allowing the whey to separate and be drained off. The result is a tangy, rich food that not only lasts longer than fresh milk, but is also packed with nutrients. The Zulu believe amasi strengthens the body, especially for men, and aids digestion. Since it doesn't require refrigeration, families can store it safely and consume it over time. Beer brewing is another age-old practice that preserves grains while providing a communal drink. Zulu women are traditionally responsible for this 3-day process. They soak maize and sorghum in water, boil it with dry sorghum, and then let it cool. By the 3rd day, the mixture is strained and ready to drink. This homemade beer is an essential part of social gatherings and ceremonies, often enjoyed in large wooden bowls. Staple foods in the Zulu diet revolve around vegetables and grains. Pap, a thick porridge made from maize meal, is a daily dish that provides energy and fills the stomach. Pumpkins, potatoes and wild greens are common ingredients in their meals, ensuring a balanced diet without the need for refrigeration. Storing maize in its dried form helps extend its shelf life, allowing families to grind it as needed, rather than keeping large amounts of flour that could spoil. Meat, on the other hand, is a rarity in everyday meals. Instead of daily consumption, oxen and goats are only slaughtered for special occasions like weddings, initiation ceremonies, or royal gatherings. This ensures that meat is used sparingly and efficiently. Once an animal is butchered, various preservation methods come into play. Some parts are dried to extend their usability, while others are consumed immediately in stews or roasted over an open flame. Food preparation and mealtime in Zulu culture are deeply rooted in tradition. Meals are often eaten with wooden bowls and spoons, and there are rituals tied to dining etiquette. Hands are washed before eating, and after meals, mouths are rinsed as a sign of cleanliness and respect. 5. Sun-dried grains and smoked meat. Deep in the Omo Valley of Ethiopia, the Mursi tribe lives as they have for generations, holding on to traditions that have defined their way of life. Known for their striking lip plates, the women of the tribe display incredible resilience and pride in their culture. But beyond the eye-catching customs, food is at the heart of Mursi survival, and in a land where drought is common, preserving it is a matter of necessity. Sorghum is the backbone of the Mursi diet. This hardy grain thrives in the harsh climate, providing a reliable food source even when other crops fail. Women grind the sorghum into flour and mix it with water to make a thick porridge, a staple that keeps the tribe well fed. When stored properly in clay pots or underground pits, sorghum can last for months, ensuring food security even in the driest seasons. Alongside sorghum, the Mursi also grow maize, beans and chickpeas, which they dry under the sun to extend their shelf life. These dried goods can be stored and used long after the harvest season, a simple yet effective way of preserving food without refrigeration. Meat is an occasional treat, but when an animal is slaughtered, nothing goes to waste. The Mursi have mastered the art of using every part, from the meat and organs to the bones and fat. Meat is often dried and smoked over an open fire, allowing it to last for weeks. This technique not only preserves the food, but also enhances its flavour, making it a prized delicacy when fresh meat is scarce. Milk and blood from cattle play a vital role in the Mursi diet, especially for men and warriors. Fresh milk is consumed daily, but when there is excess, it is turned into a thicker, yogurt-like form by letting it ferment naturally. This process allows it to be stored for longer periods while maintaining its nutritional value. Blood drawn from live cattle in small amounts is also consumed as a rich source of protein and iron. This is the same practice with the people of Maasai, ensuring that the cattle remain alive and useful, providing sustenance without the need for slaughter. Water is scarce in the Omo Valley, so food preparation and preservation often revolve around making the most of available resources. Women are responsible for gathering firewood and water, ensuring that meals can be cooked efficiently. Cooking in large quantities is common, with leftovers being stored in traditional clay pots that help keep food cool and fresh for longer. For the Mursi, food is more than just sustenance. It is a reflection of their resilience, adaptability, and deep connection to the land. Whether drying grains under the sun, fermenting milk, or smoking meat, their methods have stood the test of time, proving that even in the most challenging environments, survival is an art. 6. Dried vegetables and fermented drinks. The Hamar people have mastered the art of survival in a challenging environment, relying on time-honoured traditions to preserve their food and sustain their way of life. Their villages are simple, yet functional, with circular huts made of sticks and grass, designed to keep out pests while allowing for ventilation. Their homes are built around open spaces where their livestock, an essential part of their livelihood, are kept safe. Food is central to the Hamar way of life, and they have developed ingenious ways to store and preserve it without modern technology. Sorghum and maize are their dietary staples, used to prepare porridge and bread. To keep these grains from spoiling, they are carefully dried and stored in woven baskets or clay pots, protecting them from moisture and pests. This ensures that the community has enough food even during dry seasons, when fresh crops are scarce. Pumpkins and moringa leaves are also important in their diet, providing essential nutrients. Since refrigeration is not an option, pumpkins are often left to dry in the sun. Moringa leaves, known for their high nutritional value, are either cooked fresh or dried and crushed into a powder that can be stored for months. This powdered form allows the Hamar people to enrich their meals with vital vitamins and minerals long after the harvest. Cattle herding is at the core of Hamar culture, not just as a symbol of wealth, but also as a source of food. Milk is a primary dietary staple, consumed fresh or allowed to ferment into a thicker, yogurt-like drink that can last much longer. This fermented milk is an excellent source of probiotics, keeping the tribe's digestive systems healthy. Honey is another prized food, collected from wild beehives and used both as a sweetener and a base for traditional drinks. One such drink, ala, is made by fermenting honey, creating a naturally preserved beverage enjoyed during celebrations. Another popular traditional brew is Persi, a locally made beer that brings people together during social gatherings. The Hamar's way of life is not just about food preservation, it's a rich mixture of culture, resilience, and community spirit. Their striking attire, with women adorning ochre-dyed hairstyles, vibrant beads, and cowrie shell-decorated skirts, is a visual testament to their heritage. Meanwhile, men express their identity through elaborate clay hairstyles, feathers, and beaded accessories. One of the most famous traditions of the Hamar is the bull jumping ceremony, a rite of passage that marks a young man's transition into adulthood. This thrilling event requires him to leap over a line of bulls without falling. This feat symbolizes strength, bravery, and readiness for marriage. Women also take part in marriage rituals, showcasing their devotion through cultural ceremonies that might seem surprising to outsiders, but hold deep meaning within the tribe. 7. Milk preservation and sun-dried meat. 7. The Samburu people have managed to survive for so many years in a land where water is scarce, and the sun shows no mercy. Closely related to the Maasai, they share linguistic and cultural ties, but remain more isolated due to the harsh environment they inhabit. Their lifestyle revolves around their livestock, primarily cattle, but also goats, sheep, and camels, making them expert pastoralists, who rely on traditional methods to sustain themselves. Food preservation among the Samburu is an ancient skill, honed through necessity. With no refrigerators in sight, they have developed ways to keep their food fresh using natural techniques. Milk is a staple in their diet, consumed fresh, fermented into a thick yogurt-like drink, or stored in hollowed-out gourds lined with charcoal to keep it cool. This fermentation process not only extends the milk's shelf life, but also provides essential nutrients. To further ensure milk doesn't go to waste, It is often mixed with animal blood, a practice that not only preserves it, but also offers an iron-rich source of sustenance, especially in times of scarcity. Meat is a rare delicacy, usually reserved for special occasions. When an animal is slaughtered, the Samburu make sure no part goes to waste. The meat is either eaten immediately or dried in the sun to create a form of jerky that can last for weeks. This dried meat, packed with protein, serves as a reliable food source during long migrations in search of grazing land. The bones and fat are also used to make broths, ensuring that every bit of nourishment is extracted. In their daily lives, the Samburu rely heavily on tea, milk, and simple starchy foods like maize and rice. Since fresh produce is hard to come by in their dry homeland, they have adapted by growing drought-resistant crops and trading with neighbouring communities. Honey is another treasured food, often collected from wild beehives and stored for long periods. It not only serves as a sweetener, but also has medicinal properties, making it a valuable part of their diet. Beyond their food traditions, the Samburu are known for their striking appearance. The men, often seen wearing bright pink or black cloth similar to kilts, adorn themselves with intricate jewellery, including bracelets, anklets, and beaded necklaces. Warriors, or Morans, grow their hair into long braids, while the women, who keep their heads shaven, wrap themselves in blue or purple cloth and decorate their bodies with ochre, much like the Himba of Namibia. One of the most unique aspects of Samburu society is its gerontocracy, where elders hold all the power. They make important decisions, settle disputes, and even have the ability to curse those who disobey their rules. Their spiritual life revolves around Nakai, their god, whom they believe guides them in all matters. 8. Flood retreat farming and smoked meat. Still in Ethiopia's Omo Valley, the Caro people may be one of the smallest tribes in the region, but their way of life is nothing short of fascinating. With a deep connection to the Omo River, they have mastered the art of survival, using the land and water to sustain themselves. Their name, Caro, means fish in their language, and as you might guess, fish plays a big role in their diet. But how do they keep their food fresh without modern refrigeration? Let's dive into their resourceful techniques. The Caro rely on flood retreat farming, a method similar to what the ancient Egyptians practiced along the Nile. When the Omo River floods and then recedes, it leaves behind rich, fertile soil, perfect for growing crops. The Caro take full advantage of this, planting sorghum, maize and beans along the riverbanks. Since food storage is a challenge, they consume fresh produce as much as possible and dry surplus grains under the scorching sun to extend their shelf life. Once dried, these grains are stored in woven baskets or clay pots, keeping them safe from pests and moisture. Meat is another valuable food source, but it's not something they eat every day. Goats and cattle are slaughtered for special occasions, and every part of the animal is used. The meat is often dried and smoked, allowing it to last for weeks without spoiling. One of their most unusual dishes, teretes, is made using the stomach juices of slaughtered cattle, combined with wild herbs and vegetables to create a unique, flavorful broth. Beyond their impressive food preservation techniques, the Caro are also known for their striking body art. Both men and women paint their bodies with intricate patterns using white chalk, yellow mineral rock, and charcoal. These designs serve as decoration, but also carry deeper cultural meanings, often inspired by animals like the spotted guinea fowl. Scarification is another practice deeply embedded in their culture. Women deliberately create raised scars on their bodies, believing it enhances beauty and wisdom. Men, on the other hand, earn their scars by proving their bravery, whether by hunting dangerous animals or defending their community. Those with chest scars are especially respected. One of their most intriguing traditions is the crocodile peace ritual. At every new moon, a crocodile whisperer dips a leafy branch into the Omo River while reciting a chant, ensuring harmony between the tribe and the crocodiles. This role is passed from father to son, and it's believed that crocodiles communicate with them through dreams. 9. Meat drying and fermented dairy. The Xhosa people have lived in the Eastern and Western Cape for centuries. They have always had a deep connection to their land, raising cattle, farming, and most importantly, figuring out how to keep their food fresh without refrigerators. And let's be honest, these folks love their meat. Without the luxury of modern cooling, the Xhosa had to get creative. One of their best tricks is drying and smoking meat. Ever heard of biltong? It's like beef jerky, but even better. Meat is cut into strips, seasoned with salt and spices, and then left to dry in the sun or by a fire. This keeps it from spoiling and makes it a great snack for later. They also grill their meat over open fires, in a tradition called braai, ensuring it's eaten before it goes bad. If there are leftovers, they just dry or smoke it for later. Dairy is another big part of their diet, but fresh milk doesn't last long without cooling. So they let it ferment into a Mursi, a thick sour milk that stays good for days. It might sound unusual, but for the Xhosa it's a staple, often enjoyed with porridge or on its own. Grains like maize and millet are also important, and to keep them from going bad, they are dried and stored in woven baskets or clay pots. This way, they can last for months and be ground into flour whenever needed. One of the most loved meals is umkusho, a hearty dish made from crushed maize and beans. Food in Xhosa culture isn't just about filling up, it's also tied to respect and tradition. Meat, for example, is highly valued, but not everyone gets the same portion. The best cuts are usually reserved for men, especially elders, while women and children make do with the less desirable parts. It might seem unfair, but it's their way of showing respect for age and status. Beyond daily meals, food plays a role in their spiritual life too. Certain meals are prepared for ancestral rituals, keeping both the living and the spirits happy. Even with modern fridges available today, many Xhosa still hold on to these traditional ways of preserving food. After all, why change something that has worked for generations? 10. Milk fermentation and powdered dairy storage. The Fulani people are one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa and are famous for their deep connection to cattle. These expert herders have roamed the savannas for centuries, relying on their livestock for food, trade, and survival. But without refrigerators, they had to get creative to keep their milk and meat from spoiling in the scorching heat. Want to know one of their best tricks? Fermentation, of course. The Fulani don't just drink fresh milk, they transform it into nunu, a tangy yogurt drink, and wagara, a thicker fermented milk. These aren't just tasty treats, they help extend the milk's shelf life and boost digestion. Fermentation is like nature's fridge, allowing the Fulani to store milk for days, even weeks, without worrying about it going bad. But what happens when milk needs to last even longer? That's where drying comes in. The Fulani would spread milk out to dry under the sun or over a slow fire, turning it into a powder. This powdered milk could then be stored for months and mixed with water whenever fresh milk wasn't available. It was a game changer, especially during dry seasons when cows produced less milk. And let's not forget their ingenious storage techniques. Instead of plastic bottles or cartons, the Fulani used gourds and leather pouches to keep their milk cool. These natural containers didn't just preserve the milk, they also allowed it to ferment slightly, enhancing the flavour and making it even healthier. While dairy is a big part of their diet, meat is just as important. Since fresh meat spoils quickly, the Fulani relied on drying and smoking to keep it edible for longer. Meat was sliced into thin strips, salted, and left to dry under the hot sun or over a smoky fire. This method not only preserved it, but also gave it a rich, smoky flavour that made it even more delicious. Some dried meat was ground into powder and mixed with fat to create a long-lasting, energy-packed food called kilishi, similar to jerky, but spicier and more flavourful. Grains were another staple in Fulani households, with millet and sorghum being the most common. These grains were dried and stored in woven baskets or clay pots, keeping them fresh for months. When it was time to eat, they were ground into flour and used to make porridge or flatbreads. Food in Fulani culture isn't just about nourishment, it's deeply tied to their way of life. Meals are often simple, but full of meaning, bringing families together after long days of herding cattle. And while modern refrigeration has made life easier, many Fulani still hold onto their traditional methods of preserving food, passing down these age-old techniques from one generation to the next. What do you think about these unique ways of preserving food? Let us know in the comment section. And if this is your first time here, make sure to hit the subscribe button for more videos like this.